Welcome back to Strange Mind 6. I'm your host, Ruby, and today we're going to be reading another book called Chicken Soup for the Dog Lover's Soul. Stories of Canine Companionship, Comedy, and Courage. This was written by different authors, and it is a scholastic book. But I did want to read this because, one, I love animals, and if you are an animal lover, you're definitely going to love this. And two, I thought I might switch it up a little bit from the video games and things like that. So definitely hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And without further ado, my dear friends, grab a snack, grab a drink, or just sit back and relax, and let's get to it. 1. On love. Dogs are forever in the moment. They are always a tidal wave of feelings, and every feeling is some variant of love. Cynthia Heimel? I might have said that wrong. Patience rewarded. Albert Payson Terhune, the famed dog writer of the 1920s and 1930s, who authored the Lassie books, often told this story about his friend Wilson to illustrate the deep love that people and dogs share. It also shows how sometimes what seems to be in the best interest of all concerned may not only apply when one of those concerned is a dog. Wilson's dog, Jack, was an energetic 6-year-old collie that would meet him every day at the trolley station when Wilson returned from work. This was a ritual that had begun when Jack was a pup. The dog knew the route to and from the station like the back of his paw, and following that route was the highlight of his day. So when Wilson changed jobs and had to move to California, he thought it best to leave Jack on his home turf in Philadelphia with a relative. He explained all this to the dog upon leaving and told him that they would have to adjust to new homes. But Jack didn't want a new home. He would not stay with the family he had been left with. He returned to Wilson's old house, even though it was boarded up, and there he passed his solitary days beside an abandoned chair beneath the portico. But every evening, tail wagging, he trotted off to the trolley station. For as long as Jack had been in the world, Wilson had always taken the same trolley home from work, and Jack had been there to greet him. But evening after evening, there was no sign of the devoted dog's master. Confused and sad, he would return alone to the deserted house. The dog's depression grew. He refused the food left for him, and as the days passed, he became thinner and thinner, his ribs noticeable even through his thick blonde coat. But every evening, ever hopeful, he'd go to the station to meet the trolley, and every evening he'd return to the porch, more despondent than before. No one knows why Jack's new family didn't contact Wilson, but Jack's deteriorating condition did not go unnoticed. A friend who lived nearby was so upset by it that he took it upon himself to send a telegram to Wilson in California, informing him of the dog's situation. That was all it took. Wilson bought a return train ticket immediately. He knew that he had to. Upon arriving in Philadelphia, he waited several hours just so that he could take the same trolley that he always did when coming home. When it arrived at the station, sure enough, there was Jack, waiting and watching as the passengers got off, looking and hoping, and then suddenly, there he was, his beloved owner. His master had returned at last. Jack's world was whole once more, and so was Wilson's. Wilson told Terhune later that Jack was sobbing almost like a child might sob. He was shivering all over as if he had a chill, and I blew my nose and did a lot of fast winking. Wilson took his devoted dog, Jack, back to California with him. They were never separated again. Hester Mundis. The Duck and the Doberman. Although Jessie, our 8-pound black Doberman, looked menacing, she snarled at strangers and attacked backyard critters. She was extremely loyal and loving to our family. We wanted a second dog, but agreed that Jessie would be better off alone. We were afraid that jealousy might compel her to hurt any dog that got between her and us. So when our son, Ricky, came home from school one day with an egg, we smelled trouble. Ricky's egg came from his second-grade class project, incubating and hatching roan ducks. The egg had failed to hatch at school, so his teacher allowed him to bring it home. My husband and I didn't think the egg was likely to hatch outside the incubator, so we let him keep it. Ricky placed the egg in a sunny patch of the grass in the yard and waited. The next morning we awoke to a bizarre squeal coming from the backyard. There stood Jessie, nose to nose with a newly hatched peach-colored duckling. "Jessie will swallow it whole," I cried. "Grab her." "Hold on," my husband Rick said. "I think it'll be okay. Just give it a minute." The duckling peeped. Jessie growled and darted back to her doghouse. The duckling followed. Jessie curled up on her bed, clearly ignoring the little creature, but the duckling had other ideas. She had already imprinted on her new mother. So she cuddled up on Jessie's bed, snuggling under the muzzle. Jessie nudged the duckling out of the doghouse with her nose, only to have the baby squirm back to its place under her muzzle. Jessie gave a big sigh and reluctantly accepted her new role. Ricky named the duckling Peaches and pleaded with us to keep her. Jessie didn't seem to like having a new baby, but she wasn't predatory toward Peaches either. We gave in and decided to see how things would go. Surprisingly, over the next few weeks, Jessie really took to motherhood. When Peaches pecked at the ground, Jessie showed her how to dig. When Peaches chased tennis balls, Jessie showed her how to fetch. And when Jessie sprawled out on the leather couch to watch Animal Planet on television, Peaches snuggled right under her muzzle. After an inseparable year of digging, sleeping, and fetching together, Peaches weighed 18 pounds. She seemed quite happy in her new role as Jessie's puppy. Then, one day, something changed. Peach's innate duckness kicked in. She began laying eggs once a day and became obsessed with water. During feeding times, Jessie ate while Peaches flapped and splashed in the water bowl. One evening, Jessie became frantic when Peaches disappeared. We had visions of coyotes lurking and snatching Peaches while Jessie slept. Jessie barked and howled, as would any anguished mother who had lost a child. After a thorough search of the neighborhood, we were close to giving up hope, but then Jessie sprinted into a neighbor's backyard. We followed her. There was Peaches, sloshing and squawking in the hot tub. Jessie hopped in to retrieve her. As much as we wanted to keep Peaches in our family, one thing was clear. She needed to spread her wings and join the duck world. Ricky tied a red ribbon around Peach's leg, loaded her and Jessie into the car, and we drove to a nearby pond. During the ride, Jessie curled up with Peaches and licked her head. It was as if she knew exactly what was happening and why. As we approached the pond, Jessie and Peaches scampered toward the water. Jessie leaped in first. Peaches wobbled behind. They waded out together several yards before Peaches took off, gliding toward a flock of her own. Jessie turned around, trudged back to shore, and shook off. She sat for a few minutes watching her daughter. Then, as if to say, "It's time to set my little one free," she yelped and jumped back into the car. Back at home, Ricky taped pictures of Jessie and Peaches, digging, fetching, and snuggling to the inside of the doghouse. And for a long time afterward, Jessie made weekly visits to the pond. Although we could usually see the red ribbon, we thought we could also hear Peach's distinctive squawk saying hello to her birth family. Motherhood changed Jessie. Once unsociable and intimidating, she soon became a friend to all in the neighborhood. She snuck out at every opportunity to play with other dogs, jumped on visitors and licked their faces. Snarling was no longer part of her vocabulary. We had feared the worst the day we saw Jessie and baby Peaches standing nose to bill. We could never have imagined that an 8-ounce ball of downy fuzz would soften our 80-pound Doberman for life. Donna Griswold, as told to Eve Ann Porinach. And that is where we're going to leave it, my dear friends. I hope that you enjoyed it. Tune in next video as we have more to read from this book. And as always, this has been Ruby, signing off.